What's going on, people? Myke C-Town here with another Dead End Hip Hop solo album review, and today I'm going to talk about the new album from XXXTentacion with 17. I honestly had no desire at all to listen to this album. I haven't liked anything I've heard from this guy. You know, his shit ranges from the typical, hype, crunk, SoundCloud trap kind of shit to some of the typical mellow Drake sounding shit to some of the typical Odd Future kind of weird sounding shit. All shit that I just don't like. And I've heard a lot of bad shit about this guy, and I can't say what's true and what's not, but the things I've heard concerning his repeated fights and accusations of domestic abuse, all things that made me even less interested in listening to his music. But people were telling me that I just had to give this album a shot. Some people were saying it was just this incredible indie rock emo album. Some were saying it was the next phase in trap music, and then some people were saying it's this generation's experimental indie rap. So I'm like, okay, fine, since all of you guys are making no fucking sense, let me go ahead and give this a listen and see what in the fuck y'all talking about. So controversy aside, I'm reviewing X as the artist, not X as the person and or potential shitbag that he may or may not be. And I wasn't gonna review this either, but I figured since I actually listened to it, I may as well get something out of the time that I just spent. The album starts off with an intro where he's setting you up to understand that these are his emotions and that you're going to be entering his mind, which I think is cool. But the first song, it really wasn't very interesting. The beat didn't sound very good. Like it didn't sound like it was recorded or mixed well. The bass sounded a bit too hot in the mix. It sounded kind of buzzed out a little bit, but not like in a cool way. And his rapping over it, to be honest, it sounded very amateur. And even though he's talking about a real thing that happened to him, an awful thing, where a friend of his killed herself, I just don't pull anything real from this. Like, perhaps it's because the song ended before it actually got going, or maybe it's just the way that he delivers the lines that just lack effect. When the acoustic guitar hit on the next song, Depression and Obsession, I literally said out loud, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't know if it's him playing guitar, but it's bad. Like, the playing itself is really bad. Like, the notes are sour. The strumming is really inconsistent. The singing didn't bother me, though, to be honest. I think it would have been nice if everything was just mixed better, but the singing itself, it wasn't bad. It's better than the rapping on the first song, and I actually kind of liked the lyrics in moments on this song. Depression and Obsession doesn't mix well. I'm poisoned and my body doesn't feel well. I ate her inside and out. I feel my stomach turning. The first line was really interesting and very true. When you're depressed, a lot of times you look outward towards someone else to make you feel better, and sometimes to make you feel whole. And if that turns to obsession and that person lets you down, it can make you feel 10 times worse than you felt before. Also, depression can turn into obsession with just about anything. Not just a person. It can be an obsession with life choices, with grades, with perceptions. And that obsession can be really damaging to a person suffering from depression. But with the next song, it got back to the rapping with everybody dies in their nightmares. And the problem is, I just don't feel anything from this. I feel no passion. I feel no conviction, nothing. And given the subject matter, I would have liked to just have pulled some kind of emotion from this outside of boredom, and I just didn't. Then more of the acoustic guitar shit hit with Revenge, which again, it's not terrible, it's just not that great. But I just hate these kind of riffs. It sounded like a Sublime throwaway riff, and that's that shit that I don't like. But I thought the take on the Confucius saying, before you embark on a journey of revenge, you dig 2 graves, I thought it was really interesting that he kind of put a spin on that. And the whole thing is, revenge will not only consume the person you're seeking to get revenge on, but it will also consume you as well. So him kind of saying that I've already dug these graves, I've accepted the cost I'm going to pay for this revenge. And the song seems to be about him and his ex, the one he may or may not have beat up. Lines like broken hearts break bones, so break up fast. That leads me to think that that's who this is about. And that line could mean that you break my heart, I'm breaking your bones, I'm breaking your nose, I'm breaking your arm, whatever. So essentially break up fast, don't fall in love, or don't drag something out so you get deeper into it so the person has the opportunity to break your heart. Again, not bad lyrics, just not fantastic either. They're just kind of okay. Fuck Love, I actually thought had potential, but it ended up being kind of terrible. It came off sounding like a Big Lots version of Young Thug. I feel like if Trippie Redd had done the whole jam, then it would have been passable. Now Carry On was okay. I thought the way he rhymed here worked really well with the beat. The beat doesn't sound great though, like the drums sounded like shit, but the idea was there. I just wish they'd done a better job of recording and mixing this shit. As far as the content on this song, it's not awful. Basically, he's going more into the controversy surrounding him and the chick he was dating. And again, I don't know if he's telling the truth about all that or what the real story is. And really, it's none of my business. But if what he's saying is the truth, then I feel like his personal story is a very intriguing one. And it's a shame that he couldn't make an album that made listening to that story more compelling. I feel like this album came off as extremely dry and emotionless. And part of me wants to force some kind of deepness here and try to insert some rationale, like this is the sound of a person who's depressed but he's on meds. And for anyone that's been on antidepressants, some of them level you out in a really extreme way to where you don't have any highs or lows. You're even keel all the time. So maybe that's why X is so boring and monotone. That's what I'm telling myself. But then I know that that's just me more than likely trying to create something out of nothing. Odds are he raps like that because that's just his preferred style, but it's a style that just doesn't really work well for me. To me, if you're gonna sound completely passionless, then I feel like you better be saying some incredibly lyrical or deep shit to bypass the fact that I'm not getting any kind of obvious feelings from you. But the problem is X isn't doing that. The lyrics on this album are about as deep as a midget's belly button. You know, it all sounds very middle school poetry class assignment to me. And that's not to say that I think he's not actually going through something. I don't know. That's just me saying that the way he chose to convey it made me feel absolutely nothing, and essentially it made me not give a shit. What I get from X's music is the feeling of, look, I'm depressed, look at me. And then his fans jump and say, oh cool, you're depressed, well I'm depressed too. When neither of those things may necessarily be the case. As far as that goes though, if he truly is depressed, I really hope he does get some help. And if his fans are truly depressed and this album helps them, then they shouldn't take my opinion as anything more than my opinion. But as far as this album goes, my opinion is I feel like this was a really weak attempt at putting an album together. You know, the songs all sound lo-fi, sure, but lo-fi in the way that Speeding Bullet did. As in, they don't sound like it was a great stylistic choice, but rather like you didn't know what the hell you were doing and you recorded these songs in a way that you thought you were supposed to in order to fit into that subgenre of music. The fact that the songs were all so short, it didn't tell me that this was some cool artistic style choice. It told me that he didn't have enough ideas to really make 11 full songs. He only had enough ideas to kind of split and parse them out into 11 half-assed ideas. You know, a few of these songs could have easily been combined to make fewer but fuller songs, but overall, I don't think this album sucks. You know, I don't like it. You know, I didn't enjoy it, but I think there are a few moments where I feel like X has some interesting ideas that could have possibly been fleshed out to make a more convincing listen, but he just didn't bother to do that. The problem is, the ideas on this album have already been done a million times by people who did them a million times better. This album came off very copy-paste, but it was like if you copy a cassette tape over and over, you know what I mean? Like you get a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy to the point where it just ends up sounding like a drowned out, muddy mess of nothing. And that's how this album came off to me. But I could see if X decided to work with people who gave him a fuller sound and he took his time to actually create more detailed songs and came up with some more interesting ideas, that he could create something that was really cool. So I would actually be curious to see what he does after this. But if it's more of the same as this album, then I feel like I'm totally good on this guy, because this album, it's not for me. I didn't like it. I would never listen to this again. Moving on to the next, but be sure to leave some comments in the comment section down there. Let me know what you guys thought of it. And as usual, thank you for living, thank you for loving, thank you for being you. Please don't die, and I'll see you guys next time. All right? Peace, bitches.